So I've gone ahead and matched the position and size up a little bit better just using the reference images that we have here. So going into the side and front views to do that. And then I've just popped it back to the origin here. And right now we're still looking at 5 different pieces of geometry. So 5 different polygon pieces. Now what we want to do is start to combine these together since we've defined each one and start to create the hand itself. Okay, so this is going to be a very common method of building with polygons, and that is building individual pieces and then starting to combine them together, because it makes sense in certain cases to build a certain part of a model using one piece of geometry and then attach it, rather than trying to sort of build it from the inside out totally and creating something like the fingers from geometry that maybe isn't the best for that. So let's take a look at how we can do this. The first thing that we want to do is, once we've got everything in place, we can go ahead and select these pieces, and I've just got them still smoothed, just hitting the 3 key on the keyboard. But what we want to do is go up to Mesh, and we want to go to Combine. And if you go into the options, there's not a lot of options. You can go ahead and leave those as is. We'll just reset everything, merge by name. So we'll go ahead and apply. So now what that's going to do is create a single polygon object, but the polygons themselves aren't really connected. So what we need to do now is create the geometry that's going to go between these. And I'm going to hit 1 to go back to an unsmooth. Now taking a look at this, coming in here, you can see that we have sides here and here that would make a good place to actually connect these up. Now there are different ways of doing that. If we want to have geometry between here, so we want to maintain this gap, then we can bridge that geometry across. If we don't want to have a gap here, we can go ahead and just merge those points together, and it'll make kind of a V. Now I want to have that gap between there, so let's go ahead and just select both of these edges. So we're selecting the edges that we want to connect, and let's go up to Bridge under Edit Mesh. So we'll open up the options. We go ahead and reset everything. We want to create a linear path, and we don't want to have any divisions in here, so I'm going to go ahead and take the divisions down. Now let's go ahead and bridge. That'll create a single polygon connecting up the 2 fingers. Okay, so we have now some geometry between there. Let's do the same thing over here. So we'll select both of these. I just used bridge, so I'm going to hit G to repeat that last tool. Now here, they're actually touching, so I'm going to go ahead, and I still want that gap, so I'm going to go ahead and bring those points apart just a little bit, and then do the same thing here and bridge those across. So we can kind of spread things out a little bit if we want to. Okay, so we get something like that. So we can come in on these connections and just kind of bring those polygons in, kind of clean things up a little bit. Okay, down here a little bit as well. Alright, now for the thumb we can do the same thing, but it's not going to be quite as simple because there's such a big distance to cover. So I'm actually going to take these points, and let's go ahead and move these down a little bit, so just enabling us to make this transition maybe a little bit easier. So I'm still going to go kind of side to side. So let's select both of these. But this time we want to have a little bit more resolution in here. So let's go ahead and create a smooth path. And let's go ahead and set our divisions to maybe 3 or 4. Okay. Now you can see what's happened is it's bridged those together. It's created a smooth line here, and it's added some resolution. So that may be more or less than we need at this point, but I think it's good. We can go in and kind of start to manipulate and sort of move this around a little bit. So now what we've got is one piece of geometry here. Now what we're missing is the back of the hand, the palm of the hand, all the way down to the wrist. So now what we can do is start to take our edges. Okay, so we'll go ahead, move along here, just kind of the open edges on the hand, and let's just start with the top. Okay, we can do the bottom as well. We'll just show you the top as an example. And let's go ahead and do an extrude. Let's change our axis to a world axis, and I'm just going to move it back. Okay, so comes something like this. Now right around here we're going to have kind of the knuckle, and so I'm just going to kind of pull this up just so in my mind say, okay, this is where the knuckle is kind of going to be. Come Coming in here to do that. Okay, you can come in here on the side here and merge those points together. Okay, now let's do the same thing. So again, selecting those edges, we can come in here real quickly and select those top edges and then just deselect anything else that we don't want. So we've got that selected. Let's go ahead and do another extrude. And then we'll pull this back. Okay. Now as we start to come back here, we can start to think about how we're actually going to dial the resolution in, because if we count these lines that are coming in, we've got 1 polygon, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, because we're routing all this geometry down into this one wrist. So what we can do is start to reduce the geometry. Now there are a lot of different ways to reduce this, and for this way we're going to reduce it in an area that's not going to really deform too much, but we're still going to keep quads. So we're going to kind of pipe 3 edges into one edge, so we're going to reduce it by 2. So to do that, one of the ways we can do this is to go ahead and I'm going to just make this middle of the finger kind of the middle of that reduction, and so we'll select the middle line here on the end and then the 2 on either side. Let's go ahead and go to Edit Mesh and we'll merge. Now if it doesn't merge, we can go into the input and just change this distance so that it is within that threshold. So you get this sort of triangle. Okay, let's do the same thing here on this finger. Okay, we'll change the value here. Okay, and we'll do the same thing here on the end. If you go into the options for that, you can change it there as well. Okay, we'll start to move this over closer together. Coming in here, doing the same thing. Let's go ahead and merge that. If you want to, instead of making the top of the finger the middle, you could make one of these other edges the middle of that as well. Okay. Now this is right behind the knuckle, and I want to move it back just a little bit. So what we can do is add an extra line in here. So I'm going to Shift, right click, go to Split, and the Split Polygon tool, and I'm just going to manually come in and add some resolution here behind the knuckle straight across. So I'm keeping the triangles, in this case it's on this side above, as I come through and draw that out. So just to give us a little bit more resolution to now smooth this back into the rest of the hand and transition that back into the hand. So now I'll come in here, kind of pull that down a little bit and back. Same thing here. Okay. All right. And you can see here we have a little bit of an issue here. If I kind of pull this up, you can see we've got kind of some extra stuff going on in here. So if that happens, I can go ahead and select that extra face, and I just want to make sure that I get that deleted. If you see any sort of artifacts like that. Okay, we can start to come in here and either make geometry, new geometry, or we can merge the geometry together. And now we just want to work our way back to the wrist. So coming back in here, going ahead and extruding that back now. Again, trying to work our way down to a small area. Okay, and we want to do the same thing on the underside of the hand. So we go ahead and come in here and get this done. Okay, here we've got geometry. I think it makes sense to create it that way, so we'll go ahead and extrude. Let's kind of pull this back a little bit and up. Okay, and then let's say we want to snap this point to this point and merge it together. We can use the Merge Vertex tool. Oops, Merge Vertex tool. and snap it over here. So just clicking on that, dragging it to the point you want to snap it to. So it's the same thing, it's merging together. We're just deciding whether how to snap it instead of just snapping it to the center point of both of those vertices. Okay, we can do the same thing here. Go ahead and extrude. And then let's go ahead and snap our vertices. So let me go ahead and get the merge vertex tool. So now we've got that geometry connected up around the thumb, and we're really starting to see our hand kind of come together. Okay, let's go ahead in the next lesson, and I'm going to try to get a little bit further on this, maybe do the same thing on the underside, and then we'll look at connecting this up with the arm. So go ahead and do that next.